All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So we're 4 days into NFL free agency, and the Jets have, I would say, been pretty active. I mean, we've signed a lot of different players here. Brandon Stevens, Andre Cisco, Justin Fields, three go-to starters. And then, of course, on the depth side of things, Josh Myers, backup interior offensive lineman, Rashad Weaver, backup edge rusher, Okafor at backup tackle. I would guess backup right tackle at this point in time. The Jets also reached a one-year agreement with Jamin Davis, formerly of the Washington Commanders, and that's an interesting pickup because he's really played all around the defense before, and he was actually with the Jets last season, but it was kind of one of those like mid-season pickups if my memory serves me correctly. In any case, the Jets have been active here, but with that said, there's still remaining cap space. There's still things that the Jets can do, right? Greg Zuerlein, does he get released? Does Alan Lazard end up getting released? Things that the Jets can do to open up more cap space, because there's still some really good players out in the free agent market. I don't think there's any players that are going to be, all pros or in the running to, become Pro Bowl players, but definitely those guys that can just help fill in the cracks of the roster. If you take a look at positions of need, and by the way, I wanted to go over cap space and things like that, but the exact details of all the contracts have not been worked out. For example, like Brandon Stevens, we don't have those details. We don't have, the exact cap hits. What are are there void years on specific deals? We know the Justin Fields contract, $8 million cap hit for this year. But I think up to this point, that's the only contract that we actually have the details with. So putting that aside for a second, the Jets still have room to spend. But before I dive into a couple players that I feel like make sense for this Jets roster, guys that are still out there on the open market, I did want to give a special shout out to today's video sponsor, Raycon. So I wanted to give a special shout out to today's video sponsor, Raycon. They actually sent me over some everyday earbuds not too long ago, and I've been using them on walks, using them to edit videos. And honestly, my favorite thing about them is the multi-device connectability. Right, I can sit here and edit videos, but also have the earbuds connect to my phone. So that way, if I get a call or something, I don't have to disconnect from one device, then connect it to my phone, then disconnect from my phone to jump back to the computer. It's all kind of synced up, which I really, really like. They come in a bunch of different colors. They're affordable. And another thing that I really, really like about them is the battery life, because I'm always forgetting to charge my phone, charge my computer, and then I'll pop it open. I'm like, all right, well, the thing's dead. Now I have to wait, whatever, a half hour, an hour for the things to charge. But with these, 32 hours of battery life, but if you only charge it for 10 minutes, you'll get 90 minutes of total listen time, which I really like. And if you go to buyraycon.com/Jetscentral, you'll get 20% off the everyday earbuds. So yeah, shout out to Raycon for sponsoring the video. Thank you. Julian Blackmon from the Indianapolis Colts is someone who's always been pretty consistent, just a big time hitter, back-to-back seasons with 85 plus tackles. He always seems to be in the range of snagging interceptions, right? He had 4 in 2023. He had 3 in 2024. You could look at a pair of two right tackles in Jedrick Wills and Joe Noteboom, two guys that I would assume at this point would probably come in and compete for the job, given what the Jets currently have. Again, Max Mitchell, Carter Warren, we'll see what happens there. And then again, Okafor. Does bringing in a Jedrick Wills on a cheap one-year incentive-based contract make sense? Or Joe Noteboom, who does provide veteran experience. He's played in a lot of games. He's played on the left side or on the right side. Could the Jets maybe go down one of those two routes? You also take a look at some interesting names where the Jets can maybe buy low on that could potentially be a surprise, right? Josh Reynolds, the wide receiver, formerly of the Detroit Lions and the Jacksonville Jaguars. George Fant, right? Longtime Jet, but most recently with the Seattle Seahawks. Trent Brown, who only played in 3 games with the Bengals last season, but he's coming off a pretty big injury. Could the Jets maybe sign him on a veteran deal? Does Foley Fatukasi play a role in any of this? I don't know, you kind of feel like he's more so that fit for like a 3-4 type of system, but we've actually seen him perform well in Salah's 4-man front. There's interesting options. And then, of course, the one big area of need is tight end. Mo Alley Cox, does Tyler Conklin get brought back? There's different things that the Jets can do, but it definitely feels like up to this point, the bigger contracts are done and over with. It really feels like, hey, it's one-year contracts, it's cheap options. It feels like that first wave, at least for the Jets, is over. Now maybe something changes. Maybe someone becomes available. No one can rule out a trade, but it's also interesting too because we don't know exactly how Darren Muji likes to work, right? We don't know his tendencies. With Joe Douglas, like we knew his tendencies. With Mike McCagnon, we knew his tendencies. But with Darren Muji, we don't. You know, first cycle, first crack at it. And honestly, this type of free agency haul is very, very similar to what the Denver Broncos would, you know, it's something that they would do too, where they're signing starters, they're not overpaying, but they're getting guys that fit their system, guys that, you know, they feel like make sense for their roster. It doesn't really feel like there's been a pressure signing with the Jets team. You know, even like I've seen some pretty mixed reactions with, for example, like the Brandon Stevens acquisition and even the Okafor signing, which you know is understandable, right? But those feel like guys that the Jets actually really want on this team, because these moves wouldn't be made in the first couple of days of free agency. I think Stevens was on day 2 of free agency, or no, sorry, day 1 of free agency. That's someone that they're not going to give that much money to on a 3-year contract if they're like, yeah, maybe he works. Does he fit the system? I don't really know. Does Aaron Glenn even want him? You know, kind of shrug her shoulders. I guess we'll bring him in. No, like you're only making that signing if you really want that player. You know, if half the building is out, then I just don't see the Jets actually doing that and feeling forced to make a signing like that happen in year 1 of this regime, right? Just if it's 50-50, just save the money and attack it in the draft. Save the money and go spend it in 2026, right? Next offseason. So it's been a pretty interesting free agency period for this Jets team. And I wanted to ask the question, right? Are the Jets done? Do you think the Jets are done? Or are there some more signings coming through the pipeline pretty soon here? So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, go Jets.